Hello everyone, this is Yeronga Quick Chats with Mrs. and Mrs. Hall. This is the 50th anniversary of Australia's involvement leaving Afghanistan, and we've got two wonderful people here to give their insight, and we really appreciate it. This is Vietnam, and Mr. Hall served from 66 to 67, and he's kindly offered up his time and knowledge to enlighten us and give us some really important stuff. So thank you very much for being here.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. We're here to discuss Vietnam.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of questions. On this topic of sort of like technology and all that sort of thing, one of my questions were, when you were over in Vietnam, were you aware of the sentiment growing back in Australia?
Not really.
Yeah.
No. We didn't get a daily newspaper.
Yeah.
No. Only through some letters that fellas got, but we didn't know it was that bad. I didn't anyway.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I reckon the demonstrations were a little bit ill-founded. Look, I didn't like conscription, but the thing is that people forget that we were in an alliance with America, and that's the consequence of being in alliances. When they say they want a bit of a hand, then
you give it to them.
You've got to give it to them.
Yeah.
And so that's my sentiments on that.
Yeah. Because Dr. Naughton was saying like there was a postal strike and you guys couldn't receive any information. It would have been pretty interesting. Yeah. Because and I heard he told a story about like on the cards they used to show army person punching a postal guy and said something to the effect of like, oh, we're gonna punch you guys when we get back or something. And I found that quite funny, but it would have been quite hard to not be able to communicate.
Well, one little thing that when I came back on the Sydney, and when we got into Garden Island, we were doing a march through Sydney, and we were supposed to march through with fixed bayonets.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
And they actually took the bayonets off us. We weren't allowed to.
So this is when you got back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's pretty serious then.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it would have been difficult.
Because we weren't treated well.
Yeah. Treated really badly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I was talking to Dr. Naughton again, and he said like when you were over in Vietnam, he didn't find many mental health problems because he chalked it up to like the brotherhood there. But
camaraderie. Well, there was none that I knew of.
Yeah.
It happened when you get back.
Yes.
Yeah. Fall out of it.
Yeah. It would be really hard because.
And of course, when we were there, when I was there, we were out. We were there for 13 months. I mean, 75% of the time, which is actual fact, we were on operations.
Yeah. Wow.
Out of our base camp.
Yeah. So it's the entire time, like 75%.
Yeah, and that's sleeping on the ground every night.
Yeah.
And when we got back to base camp, we really didn't have to have that much of a rest because they'd have us filling sandbags.
Yeah, you're always doing something.
Yeah.
Always working, doing something.
Yeah.
One of my questions that I've asked every single person that I've interviewed, so we've got some Vietnamese teachers.
Yeah.
We interviewed Dr. Naughton. But what was the Vietnam conflict? Because so many people in my generation, especially, we've only heard bits and pieces. But
the conflict was that the North Vietnamese wanted to unite the country. Because the French were there for, 100 or so years or whatever. So they're always dominated by someone else. And Ho Chi Minh went to a conference in Paris and asked the Americans to help to try and they declined.
Yeah.
So that's why he went over and became a guerrilla. Yeah, it was about unification and the non, what shall I say, the non, the unwillingness of the Americans to help.
Yeah. So
yeah, and then the Americans backed the South Vietnamese government, which were corrupt.
Yeah.
And they actually had, I think their president was Diem, and I think they had him assassinated.
Yeah.
And then Colonel, what's his name? Anyway, he was an Air Force colonel, and he used to have two Pearl handle 45 on his hips. And he was corrupt.
Yeah.
A bit like Marcos in the Philippines, he was corrupt too. So that's what it was all about, really. And then it became Como, free world. That's how it came to be. Yeah.
So the Ho Chi Minh people approached America to reunite?
Yeah, Ho Chi Minh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. To help, I think, to help them get France out or whatever. I just can't remember at the moment. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. So so it wasn't probably handled the best it could have been.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then that started what happened.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes. It's interesting because, as I was saying, like our generation probably knows so little about it, and it's one of those things that you probably want to move on from, but we've got to learn something from it.
Yeah. Oh well, the lesson you learn is that war is absolutely fruitless.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there are at times there's an old saying. I love freedom too much to always side with the pacifist. Meaning sometimes you've got to take a stand, like Ukraine is against Russia at the moment.
Yeah. There's that famous saying like freedom isn't free.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a price to pay. Yeah. It's really interesting. Yeah. And
the sorry part of it, that hundreds of thousands of men and boys die, and civilians.
Yeah, war's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from your time in the military, going back to civilian life, did you take any of the principles? Did you take much from it?
Yeah, I did. Probably a rigid outlook on life, like a very straight down the middle, no grey.
No grey, black and white.
Black and white.
Yeah. Okay.
But I wasn't treated well in the workforce because I was working within 3 weeks of coming back to Australia when I probably should have had 12 months off.
Yeah.
I had fight in the locker rooms with guys at work.
Yeah.
Who wanted to fight me.
Yeah, for something you couldn't do anything about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. So, getting back from Sydney and into Western Australia, a waitress at the airport pubs. So that's the first and last drink you're getting.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
You know? What's going on here?
Yeah. I've got an unlucky number. Like.
Yeah.
I didn't. Yeah.
No. So.
It would have been like. Obviously, it's hard to ask you questions because we don't want to say everything bad, but like, that would have been horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Naughton was saying like, the war was bad, but he saw. Yeah, I told you before. He saw most of the mental health cases when people came back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Just treated beyond poor.
Yeah.
How did you? how did you develop a brotherhood? Like, what did you do with your free time in Vietnam?
There was no free time.
There was no free time?
Actually,
Okay.
we had 4 days in country.
Yeah.
R&C, rest and recreation, or R&R. No, R&R was out of country.
Yeah.
And I went to Hong Kong and Taiwan.
Yeah, right.
Because I had a mate in the in headquarters who there was a lot of the married guys didn't want to go, so I was able to get into. I went in December and I think February. I went to Taiwan, which was great.
Yeah.
And that was for 5 days.
5 days. Yeah.
Yeah. So and I think we had one country in country 4-day
Rest.
stint.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. Okay. So, what did you do to develop? Like, how did the brotherhood develop?
I think it developed because you'd had a year of training, and you had things in common, like the football.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just develops that it's got to become a team. You've got to be a team, otherwise you don't survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like everybody watching everybody else's back.
Yeah.
So that's how it develops, you know.
Yeah. You gotta have that trust.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As Dr. Naughton was saying, like, you used alcohol a lot, and like he was. Yeah, I've touched on it before, but like the mental side of like while you're over there, like, I wouldn't know, but what was it like mentally?
We were 20 and stupid.
20 is stupid.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, it really you really didn't worry if it was going to happen. It was going to happen.
Yeah.
The only time I was really worried was the Battle of Long Tan, and we'd just come off a 2-week operation.
Yeah.
And the movie Danger Close is pretty well, if you watch it, pretty well accurate. There was a concert on, so we shouted. We went down, which is just down from our lines, and then the 105 howitzers started up and whatever, and then we were called back to our lines to rearm, and the concert group, Little Patty and these people, they were shoved on a...
Do you know who that is?
No.
She was a famous singer in the
Australian
60s.
singer.
Yeah. Right.
They were put on a helicopter and sent back to Saigon or something. And so we were getting prepared, but then it really started to, the jets were coming in and bombing and strafing. And then the rains came, and they couldn't get us out safely.
So were you involved in Long Tan?
So, well, no.
No.
But we were helicoptered out at 5 o'clock the next morning.
Yeah.
And went in and then did a
sweep
through.
Yeah.
And so and then that night we had to follow up the trail that they had left, which was quite significant. They just sort of, it was like a D8 caterpillar had gone through the scrub. There was that many of them. And of course I was a scout and I was on the left flank, and they keep telling me to be quiet, and I couldn't because it was that thick. I had to use my machete to cut my way through, and so the boys were, they were. Anyway, we followed them up, and then we were called back. So and so we harboured up in the battlefield for the night with 300 bodies all around us, and and there was looked like probably Chinese propped up against a rubber tree dad, of course, and you just look at him and think, well, as you eat your
Yeah.
bully beef, I'm just glad it's not me.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that was the only time I thought I was late. And I said, this is it.
Yeah,
I
right.
thought I was gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So it would have been, pretty.
Yeah. That's the only time I was really not scared, but just apprehensive.
Yeah, from your experiences, being a conscript and everything, would you recommend the army to people looking to join?
Yeah, I think it was. I think if somebody came to me, some of my mates stayed in and became colonels, and
Wow.
you know, and etc. Yeah, I think it's a good profession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it depends what you're going to go in for.
Yeah, so it's like I was talking to the Vietnamese teachers and Dr Naughton, and they both agreed that this war's not ever good. It's horrible, but sometimes there's a necessary evil.
Absolutely, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So some people need to be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a good profession. I think.
Yeah.
I like the military because of its discipline.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think it can make you a better, a more proficient person.
Yeah. Develop you.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Yeah. And would you say there's some people that just naturally born to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Some sort of destiny involved.
Yeah.
Now this is an interesting question you might have some opinions on. Do you have any tips for the future generation, like ours or the ones going forward? Because you have all this experience and all this life knowledge. Do you wish anything?
Stop thinking about me all the time.
Yep.
And get out and do some good in the community.
Yep.
And there's plenty of people that need help.
Yep.
And volunteer for something. Don't because this is the trouble with the Western world. It's not only so secular, but there's no. You've got to. The new generation, the young generation, has got to find a moral compass.
Yeah.
About life.
Yeah.
And when you have a look, there's not much moral compass around.
No. Yeah. People don't believe in much anymore.
No.
Yeah. I find it really interesting because I even talked to some of my mates and some people, they go, why do you want to join the army? Why do you want to join the military? I'm like, because surely I'm going to be doing something good, right?
Yeah.
And Dr. Naughton came up with 4 takeaways from the conversation.
Yeah.
We had to boil it down. We're going to take a while and boil it down.
Yeah, good.
So obviously he's very well educated. So he said education's very important. It's the most important thing.
Yeah.
The other thing he said was mental resilience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing, if I try and recall, was when you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
And the other thing was help others.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Do you think those are pretty...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If Dr Michael Naughton said it,
you agree.
I'll back him 100%.
Yeah.
Pretty smart.
Do you have anything to elaborate on, especially mental resilience, helping people when doing the best?
Well, mental resilience. Yeah, I think when you find yourself in an environment, you get on top of it straight away, and that will save you from having any mental problems.
Yeah, right.
So, make sure that you get to know your environment, because if you don't go with the environment, it'll eat you up.
Yep.
So you've got to go with it.
And would you say part of the environment is understanding yourself?
Yeah.
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 Okay. Yeah.
Which I found hard to do sometimes.
Yeah.
I think you came back feeling that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you came back struggling.
Yeah. You would have
Yeah. I think they did a good job in Vietnam, but when you came back, it was terrible for you.
Yeah.
So there was a struggle there.
Yeah.
And also, Ken was diagnosed with PTSD
Yeah.
later in life, but obviously he had it all along.
Yeah.
And when we were married and had our children, those kids were sort of exposed to it because it's actually a trauma to the brain, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, the PTSD is something you should consider because so many of them have got it through the army.
Yeah.
So you should that should be a good consideration for you to look into seriously, because Ken came through pretty well in as much as he was
able to.
Well, he made a good career in the end.
Yeah.
That's why we came over here for career opportunity for him. But
it was a struggle.
But it was a struggle for him because he did have PTSD undiagnosed all those years.
And the Australian people didn't help.
It was an unknown in the 70s, PTSD. In the 80s it became a thing, didn't it? It was associated with, what do they call that other condition? Shell shock in the old days. It's always been around, but it's become a proper mental, classified as
a bit more accepted
mental health problem.
Yeah.
So, and he had that, and it's hard for them because it was hard for him because he had to hold down a job. He had a young family.
Yeah.
And it actually impacts on the whole family, that condition.
Yeah. It's not just
it does.
And you need help, people to help you.
He did seek help, and he retired early.
Yeah.
He was diagnosed late in life, so he retired early, and he was able to be medicated as well. It's a very important thing to consider if you're going into military. I think, because I think from I don't know, I'm not sure, but it could be a lot to do with the training as well. Very exacting.
Yeah.
And then when you get married and have children, you're very exacting with them. You have a lot of patience. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and it can be passed, that anxiety can be passed on to your children.
Yeah.
Which is what actually happened.
My
kids were successful in their endeavours, but they had a bit of a struggle along the way.
Yeah.
Like it did impact on us as a family.
Yeah.
And I was unaware of it.
At the time.
At the time,
He just struggled with his nerves.
Yeah.
Right the way through when they were small. And it does impact on the family.
One of the big things I wanted to ask as well is mental resilience is very important to me. How do you develop it? How do you get mentally stronger?
Challenge yourself.
One thing, you've got to psych yourself up to be strong mentally.
Yep.
And adapt to your environment.
Yep.
As quickly as you can.
Yep.
Any different environment that you go into.
Yeah.
You grab it and defeat it, and then you're on your way.
Yep.
So that's it, eh?
Yeah. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
I'd like to know how you go with your
Thailand.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the chat. It's